Farmers oppose the move to import rice. Hambantota dock workers who do not report to work by 2 p.m. tomorrow to lose their jobs. $100 million fraud in the Hambantota port transaction, an allegation by the joint opposition. 5 persons who were lost in the Sripada Forest Reserve found.
A very good evening. We're coming to you live and direct from the Newsfirst studios here in Colombo. I'm Mahina Bongzo.
Hello there, very good evening to all our viewers. I'm Joel Outskin. Let's start off with a look at our top story for this evening.
Farmers and local producers alike have expressed their displeasure over the government's decision to import rice at a time when rice stocks continue to remain at storage facilities.
A kilogram of samba rice in the retail market is priced at 90 rupees, while a kilogram of nud rice is priced between 84 rupees and 86 rupees. The price of a kilogram of kakli rice is between 80 rupees and 83 rupees, while the price of a kilogram of kiri samba rice is sold at a range between 112 rupees and 145 rupees. In this backdrop, the government during the recent harvesting season purchased rice at a certified price. Currently, around 200,000 tons of rice are being held at government storage facilities. However, since there is a sharp decrease in the paddy harvest during the past season, the Cabinet of Ministers decided to hold these stocks of paddy as reserves.
There is a price increase of rice. At some places, a kilogram of rice is being sold at a price between 80 rupees and 85 rupees. Some traders are making use of this situation. We hope to import around 5,000 to 10,000 metric tons of rice to the country in order to ease the burden on the consumers.
With measures taken to import rice, what would be the fate of the 200,000 metric tons of rice currently held by the government?
The paddy stocks held by the government are never converted to rice. They hold on to those stocks and after a few months release them as animal feed. They condemn the stocks and sell it for a lesser price. But it comes back as stocks for human consumption after commissions are made. The local consumers are being extorted through this.
The government is attempting to import rice once again, while previous malpractices relating to the importation of rice are still being probed. An investigation is taking place citing that when Satos imported rice to the country in 2014 and 2015, the government suffered a loss of a staggering 8 billion rupees.
There is rice that could feed the country until May 2017. The issue is who holds these stocks. The government has no stocks because it released them to private mills. Therefore, the government has to wait for the private mills to supply rice to the consumers. If the government attempts to import rice as a solution to this, come the next season, the farmers will have to commit suicide. Large-scale businesses with political backing are the ones deciding the price of rice in the country. If the paddy is converted to rice through the medium and small-scale mills, the government will suffer no loss at all. Rice can be sold to the consumers at a maximum price of 72 rupees.
In the latest developments, speaking to Newsfirst, Minister of Rural Economy P. Harrison noted that a decision has been reached to retain 5,000 metric tons of paddy and release the rest of the stored paddy into the market in a bid to control the prices of rice.
And on to yet another headline-making story this evening. The Minister of Ports and Shipping warns that if the Hambantota dock workers do not report to work by 2 p.m. tomorrow, they will be considered as those who left the service. A court order was also issued against the demonstrating dock workers today. The Hambantota Magistrates Court issued an order containing 7 conditions, ordering the dock workers to refrain from disrupting port activities. The group continued demonstrating for the 8th consecutive day today. Court issued the order following a request made by the Hambantota police. The order notes that none of the main gates of the port should be obstructed, adding that operations of incoming vessels must not be hindered. The order also goes on to state that port property must not be damaged. The demonstrators have decided to continue the strike action in compliance with the court order, and equipment of a private company being held by them will return to the authorities. The employees were recruited on the 1st of November. The letter of employment notes that following the completion of 3 years in service, they will be given permanent employment status. That was to be done on the 1st of November 2016. But what they did was something else. They are working to take away the employment of these workers. They have decided to privatize the Magam Ruhnapura port. The Assistant Labour Commissioner of Hambantota met with the demonstrators today. Our correspondent reported that several MPs and local government representatives supported the strike action. If the Mahinda Rajapaksa government ensured the employment of these youth, we will not have to face this situation. They evaded that even while in power. This group in power is following suit. The Sri Lankan Navy provided services to the vessel that anchored at the port today. Police, the Special Task Force and Ports Authority security were deployed for the security of the port premises, and notices were also put up this afternoon. The government reached a decision yesterday to reintegrate those who return to service by 2 p.m. tomorrow. Those who do not turn up will be considered as those who have left their posts. If the number of persons who rejoin is low, we have the ability to provide several job opportunities to those from Hambantota. Until that happens, we have decided to make sure we collect that revenue by dispatching persons, even from Colombo. Former Minister Chamal Rajapaksa contacted me and sent some persons to meet me. I explained the situation to them. The decision will be enforced at 2 p.m. tomorrow. Now, the Minister of Ports and Shipping, Arujana Ranatunga, also told reporters that some shipping lines have named the Hambantota port as a risk plus port following the seizure of a foreign merchant vessel by protesting dock workers. Ranatunga, who stopped short of naming the shipping line, said the government has been in talks with them to continue roll-on, roll-off operations at Hambantota as planned.
Meanwhile, the joint opposition today alleged that irregularities had taken place during the transactions involving the Hambantota port.
What is more serious is that a discussion had taken place in Hong Kong when this deal was taking place. A separate deal had taken place at the office of a very powerful Sri Lankan businessman. A deal of $100 million had taken place. We tell the government and the president to inquire into the corrupt $100 million deal for the sale of the port. I must also mention that when we come back into power, we will terminate all these agreements and reclaim everything to the government. Mahindananda says that when they come into power, they will reclaim the Hambantota port. For that to happen, we have to sell it first. We will not sell a single plot of land in our motherland. The loan of $1.3 billion makes the future generations also debtors. We have brought in Chinese investments of $1.1 billion. We are making this a joint venture. We will not sell any of these lands. There is nothing to take over. They continue to think that the people are fools.
The National Movement for Power Devolution convened a media briefing in Colombo today.
I don't think we will have these problems if law was given its due place. Mahinda Rajapaksa, who built the Hambantota port and named it after him, could not even recruit these employees. Now what is he talking about? He says that if this was his own regime, he would have made all these individuals employees of the Hambantota port. This is what you call daydreaming. He is obsessing over the fortune teller. This time the fortune teller predicts that he will rule the country from the 24th of January. He told certain companies to cause confusion and sabotage in the country until he comes back to power. So even in the face of this, if the government is not taking any action, what we can say is the government is digging its own grave.
Minister Field Marshal Sarath Fonseca convened a media briefing today.
Under international regulations, it was paramount that the vessel was secured. There is something called piloting the vessel when being secured. Due to the influence of the dock workers, the person at the port had not stepped forward. There are only 2 persons in the Navy who are qualified to carry out this task. One person is the commander of the Navy. He had stepped forward to pilot the vessel. The Navy commander was in the attire that is required to be worn at such a situation. The Minister of Justice had made a statement that tarnishes the character of the commander of the Navy. The Minister of Justice did business with avant-garde. The Navy took the lead in putting a stop to that. The Minister of Justice has a grudge. There are conspirators as well. We have received information that the Nil Balakaya is leading these groups.
And in news from the President's Diary this evening, the Sri Janaratana Vocational Technical Training Centre in Sinigama was declared open today in line with the 73rd birthday celebrations of Venerable Galabuddha Gnani Sarathera, the chief incumbent of the Hunupitiya Gangarama Temple in Colombo.
The President graced the event, which also saw the participation of the Prime Minister. After the Technical College was declared open, the President and the invitees planted saplings at the premises. The training centre has been constructed with the assistance of the Sri Lanka Navy.
Recently, there were allegations against the Navy Commander and the Inspector General of Police. These are strategies used to cause confusion in the country. When the country is led to such a state, the situation would be one where a calm human being would not be able to live. It is disappointing to say this. Let alone the North and the East, it is increasingly difficult for us to work on behalf of the South, the land where we were born in. Sometimes there might be people who will call for the armed forces to be stripped of their clothing in the future. It is paramount that the new generation is given vocational training and other such resources. Therefore, the government is implementing a broad national program under the Ministry of Vocational Training. Priority is given to trained persons with skills for employment under vocational education. There is no shortage of employment in the country, but there is a shortage of qualified persons in the country.
At a time where there is reconciliation and political as well as economic stability in the country, what we hope to do is to steer the country towards development. With my second anniversary in office, we will launch a new plan for this. We also hope to provide the youth with the training required for that development.
Born on the 14th of December 1943 in Galabuddha Mathura, Venerable Galabuddha Gnana Sarathera was ordained at the Hunupitiya Gangarama Temple in 1954. He is also the current leader of the Sangha generation of the Venerable Hikkadue Sri Sumangala Thera and was a student of the Vidyodaya University. He was a pioneer in inaugurating the Navam Mahaperahera in 1978 and commenced the Jinaratana Technical Training Centre, a place for school dropouts to train for self-employment opportunities. Following this event, President Maithripala Sirisena attended the National Productivity Awards, which took place at the Stein Studios. The President also paid floral tributes to the Buddha statue located in the Shakya Arana of the Stein Studios, which was unveiled yesterday.
Well, speaking in Newsfirst, Venerable Galabuddha Gnani Sarathera, the chief incumbent of the Hunupitiya Gangarama Temple, expressed the following views. How do you feel when you look back at your spiritual journey?
I have fulfilled my responsibilities silently. I must say one thing. December is when the tsunami occurred. I escaped within minutes from the tsunami in Gaul. We immediately collected items worth 1 million rupees and handed it over to the Maharaja organization. This is because the Maharaja organization operates in the Hunupitiya area. We have an immense trust in them and they have the same trust in us. The Gangarama Vihare is devoid of any political, racial or religious dispositions. According to the preachings of Lord Buddha, we must dedicate ourselves towards others. Not only the Mahasangha, but all religious groups, may it be Hindu, Christian or Muslims, all depend on the people. Therefore, our efforts should be on behalf of the people. We should work without any personal motives and reflect on our history, culture, languages and the country as a whole when serving the people. It should be done in unity and harmony without any divisions. We are constantly questioned on whether the rogues and murderers have been arrested. These matters come under the purview of the Attorney General's Department and the Inspector General of Police. We may have changed the government, but our state remains the same.
Allegations were made against the head of the previous government as well as ministers. They said that investigations will be called for. It has been over a year that they have failed in enforcing the law against the corrupt.
Has the government delivered on its promise to arrest the corrupted and the thieves?
Well, no is definite answer, because the thieves and corruption has got enlarged. I mean, one was very hopeful that if this government was elected on the basis of good governance, and something that everybody looked forward to is that there will be some degree of elimination, though may not be comprehensive. But still, what has happened is these same old crooks are back at the game. What has happened is they have changed the shirt from blue to green, but they are operating on the same wavelength.
Minister, I object the statement you just made, because Basil Rajapaksa is jailed and released again. This has become a joke now.
No, we already have a judicial process for that. As a cabinet minister, I request them to appoint a special court to look into these matters and take action.
The Anti-Corruption Front convened a media briefing today.
Anura Kumar Dissanayake, taking refuge behind parliamentary privileges, has made a statement claiming that something that was vested in the Sangha by the president through a deed as illegal. If this land that was donated to the Sangha is termed as illegal, the Mahameuna Uena is also on illegal land, so is the Ruanwali Mahasaya. These are persons who have no regard for the law of the country. We challenge Anura Kumar Dissanayake to make this statement in public. Do not take refuge behind parliamentary privileges and make statements. Come forward and make a statement.
පිටකොන්දක් තියෙනවා නම් අපි අභියෝග කරන්න පුළුවන් නම් එවෙලේ එළියේ මේ චෝදනාව අපිට කරන්න. මේක පිටුපස්සේ තියෙන වෙන මොකක්වත් නෙවෙයි.
There is an attempt to create an opinion in society that the Anti-Corruption Front is also corrupt. That is a disgraceful attempt that is being made. We hope that the leader of the JVP would respond to this.
Former Minister Professor J.L.P. Rees commented on the attempt made by the government to create a super ministry.
A very dangerous bill has been gazetted, and that is the Development Special Provisions Bill. It is clear that this bill includes a program where the super minister can snatch away even the powers of the president in violation of the constitution. Institutions such as the Investment Board, Export Development Board, Urban Development Authority, Ports Authority, Water Supply and Drainage Board cannot make use of their own powers. The subject ministers of those institutions have no rights. Everything has to be done according to the instructions of the super minister. All the powers to carry out these tasks will be given to a managing director. The minister will appoint someone he knows. It is evident that this is an invitation to fraudulent and corrupt activities. This is a dangerous situation because the right of the public to file a case against those who misuse the powers have been restricted.
The central bank issued another set of treasury bills today worth 24 billion rupees through an auction. A media release by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka notes that treasury bills have been issued with maturity periods of 182 days and 364 days. Bids were accepted from primary dealers and the general public has been invited to purchase treasury bills from the primary dealers and other licensed commercial banks.
TV1 News First, main sponsor.
Welcome back to the news. Now, security forces managed to locate 5 persons who were reported missing while on excursion in the Sripada Forest Reserve. Among the missing were 2 women. The group had commenced a trip on the 12th from the Samnala Forest Reserve. The group was missing for a total of 2 days. The Sri Lanka Army, Police Special Task Force and the Air Force conducted search operations. A Bell 412 helicopter was also deployed for the search operation. The location of the missing persons was identified last evening by YA, and a rescue team from the STF reached the location by 7 this morning. The group have informed the authorities that they were lost by dialing the police emergency hotline. However, due to the weak nature of signals in the area, their exact location was not traced. The group includes the 24-year-old son of Nalantani Lakshapani Estate Superintendent, the Superintendent's 62-year-old sister, her niece and 2 friends. The group was admitted to the Maskele District Hospital for a medical checkup.
We were going in search of a stream of water. Although we were with our guide, the guide took a wrong turn. We were only able to make one phone call, but later the battery died. We were instructed to light a fire so they will be able to trace us.
The Golden Jubilee of the Tudalla Paolu Gurudaru Association was held recently.
The event was held at the Committee Hall of Tudalla. In line with the celebration of the association's Golden Jubilee, a special memento was presented to Father Jude Pires to mark his Silver Jubilee since entering the priesthood. Father Jude Pires is also the advisor of the Tudalla Paolu Gurudaru Association. The Tudalla Paolu Gurudaru Association is solely driven by the funds gathered by its members. A Holy Mass was also held to mark the celebration.
The family of Paula and Justina over 226 years ago had 10 children. These 10 children spread around the country, spreading the word of God. These children began to come together, and this is how this association came to be a century ago. Through this association, we hope to help the needy and to spread the word of God to people to shape their lives in accordance to Christian values. Through all our actions, we intend to aid those in need.
A Sri Lanka-Tajikistan business meeting got underway in Colombo to coincide with the arrival of the President of Tajikistan to Sri Lanka. The business meeting commenced with the participation of the President of Tajikistan, Enumal Rahman, Minister of Industry and Commerce, Rishad Baduddin, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, Harsha De Silva, ambassadors of both Tajikistan and Sri Lanka, and members of the business community.
As a developing middle-income country and giving due consideration to our strategic location, Sri Lanka will continue to follow open and free market economic policies and expand trade and economic links with the outside world and work towards being a foremost regional economic center. Although Sri Lanka's total trade with Tajikistan remains less than $1 million. It also shows the huge unexploited trade potential that exists for mutual benefits.
I am pleased to inform you that we had fruitful and productive bilateral discussions with the Tajikistan delegation yesterday on economic and trade cooperation. We discussed cooperation in areas such as trade and investment, tourism, cultural tourism, and youth exchanges, which could be realized through joint ventures, including public-private partnerships in mutually beneficial sectors and improved ties through joint ventures. I'm very much encouraged by the Memorandum of Understanding to be signed today between the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce and the Chamber of Commerce and Industry of Tajikistan. I believe such partnerships between the private sectors will no doubt propel our bilateral economic relations to new heights.
What is the fate of the Sri Lankan women who travel to the Middle East as domestic workers? The following is the second of the two-part series filed by Newsfirst.
Priyanka left her 3 children with her mother and husband to work as a domestic worker in Saudi Arabia. Like a modern-day slave, she was forced to work long hours and not given enough food. Many Sri Lankan women work and live in similar appalling conditions. But yet, the Minister of Foreign Employment says no complaints are received from women while they're abroad. She says some women make complaints when they return, and the Bureau of Foreign Employment has no power to help them.
His wife was in the Middle East. Samuda appealed to the Bureau for help, but they did not offer the assistance you might expect. They asked him to pay 133,000 rupees for her return, an amount the family could simply not afford.
Sadly, even after his boss had lent him the money and it was paid, it was not the end of the family's pain. Samuda was told his wife would return within 3 weeks, but 3 months later, she still had not been brought back.
8 months after paying the money, he challenged a bureau worker as to why his wife had not returned. He was surprised by what the bureau worker told him.
කෙනා මට කිව්වා මේ මම වාහනයක් අරන් තියෙන්නේ මේ මම කොහොමද මහත්තයා වාහනයක් ගත්තට මට ඒක මේකක් නෑනේ මහත්තයා කියලා කිව්වා. නෑ ඔයාලට වාරිකයක් මේ 11500 මම වාරිකය ගෙවනවා. ඔයාලට එක වාරිකයක් ගෙවන්න පුළුවන්ද කියලා.
Samuda refused to pay this bribe and was told to meet the then Minister of Foreign Employment on a public day. According to Samuda, he met the minister and was told paying the money is not enough and he had to be patient. He paid the money in October 2012, 7 months after his wife left for Saudi Arabia. It wasn't until over a year and a half later that Priyanka was finally reunited with her family. But Priyanka nearly didn't make it home at all. Not knowing how long she would have to endure her life as a domestic worker, she began to lose hope.
එච්චර දුකක් ඇති වෙන කතා කරන්න විදියක් නැහැනේ. ඔව් මේගොල්ලෝ යවන්නෙත් නැහැ. මේ ළමයි මතක් කෙනෙකුට ඉන්නත් ඇවිල්ලා බේත් වෙදි ගොඩාක් බිව්වා. ඊට පස්සේ දොස්තර කෙනෙක්ව ගෙන්නුවා. දොස්තර කෙනෙක්ව ගෙන්නලා මේ වමනේ යන්න බෙහෙත් වගේක් දුන්නා. තේලයින් දුන්නා. ඊට පස්සේ වමනේ වලින් බෙහෙත් ටික ගිහිල්ලා තිබුණා. මේ ඊට පස්සේ මම එනකොට දැන් පඩි ඉතුරු පඩි බේරනකොට රියල් 300ක් මේ කපාගත්ත දොස්තරට ගෙන්නුවාට රියල් 300ක් ගියා කියලා රියල් 300ක් කපාගත්තා.
The minister said the government is looking at other forms of income so there is less reliance on remittances from women abroad, but said that it would take time to change things.
A new government has come into power since this family's ordeal, but how much has really changed? Perhaps it is time the welfare of Sri Lankan domestic workers in the Middle East is prioritised above their economic contribution.
Well, with that, we wrap up tonight's edition of Primetime News. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Mahina Bonzo.
And I'm Joel Outskoon. Take care. Good night.